What are the top 10 things that you can do in the event that your marriage may be in trouble? Welcome to the Man on Fire Rising podcast. I'm your host and the creator of Man on Fire, David Mailer. So, without any further ado, let's dive into the center of that fire. Let's turn up the heat and let's discuss the top 10 things that you could do in case your marriage may be in jeopardy. All right, well, before I go into this list, there's something I want to share with you guys, which is getting into marriage is one of the most bold and courageous things that you could ever do in your life. See, most of us come from the fairy tale romance of thinking that we're going to get married and we're going to live happily ever after. And nobody really told you that no, marriage will have trials and tribulations. Marriage will have ups and downs. Marriage will have fighting. Marriage will be a direct mirror for you to look at your own stuff. What stuff? The stuff that we buried. What stuff did we bury? We buried our hurts, our wounds, our traumas from childhood. A lot of women have father issues, meaning dad wasn't necessarily there for them. There might be abandonment issues. There might have been a breach in safety. There might have been a history of physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. And the same goes for men, where we might have mom issues and we might not have fully cut the cord to mommy. And so we get into a marriage and we're going to work through all the childhood stuff that we buried as a man. And the woman's going to work through all the stuff that she buried as a little girl. And the two of you are going to come together and you don't realize that you're both going to bring fire into the mix. You're going to bring your shadow up from deep down and bring it to the surface. And next thing you know, there's going to be pointing of fingers. There's going to be anger. There's going to be frustration. There's going to be confusion. And you're not going to know what to do. So a marriage is so courageous to enter into. A marriage is so sacred. A marriage is a beautiful opportunity to do deep healing work on yourself. A marriage is an opportunity to take two people and unite them as one, to have a merging. A marriage is an opportunity to have a closer relationship with God. Marriage is not for the weak. When I was younger, I used to think marriage was prison. My father and my mother had a horrible marriage. They knew how to love me, but they didn't know how to love each other. So I had stories in my head that I had to overcome, where I once looked at marriage as a prison. Today, I look at marriage as one of the greatest acts of freedom that you could ever have. It's one of the most beautiful acts of responsibility that you could ever take on, the beautiful act of a deep commitment. And through the responsibility and through the commitment, you get to know thyself that much more profound, in a more profound way, in a more profound manner. So, being that you know how I hold marriage as so sacred, let's dive into the 10 things that you could do in the event that your marriage may be in trouble. All right. Number one, you got to be honest about what's really going on. Well, if you watched my previous podcast, the first thing I said not to do is don't downsize it. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Don't pretend the problem's not there. Don't be an ostrich. Don't bury your head in the sand. Don't sweep it under the carpet. So you got to be honest about what's really going on, and you have to be honest with yourself. You got to truly be honest that this is what's going on in my marriage, and you got to be willing to face it. Most men don't want to face it. Most men want to numb out. Most men want to have the alcohol or the weed or the affair. No, you got to be honest about what's really going on, and you got to be willing to be honest with your partner. See, if there are lies, if there are fibs, whether you call it a white lie or not, it's still a lie. When there's dishonesty in the space, it makes it very challenging for there to be healing. Well, I don't know if I want to be honest. I don't know if I want to hurt her. What if there was an affair? Should I really be honest? Yes. The answer is yes. What if I lose her? Or what if she loses? What if the woman's worried that she'll lose the man? Well, that's the chance you take. But the truth shall always set you free. So we have to be willing to be honest. And quite honestly, one of the reasons that we're not honest, well, we think that if we tell the truth, and let's just say there was an affair, well, if we tell the truth, then that person won't see me the same way anymore. They'll see me as a monster. They'll see me as a bad person. They'll see me as a hypocrite. They'll see me as a man that doesn't have integrity. And now I'm concerned that they'll withdraw their love from me. They'll see me as this horrible person. They'll take their love away from me. So thanks, but no thanks. I'm not going to be honest. I'm just going to bury this one. I'm going to swallow the key. I'm going to take it to the grave. I'm not going there. I'm not going to be honest. But when you're not honest, there's always something in the space. See, when you're not honest, you're hiding a part of yourself, whether it's the man or whether it's the woman. When you're not honest, healing can't really happen. And the other person doesn't really know what they're up against if there's not honesty in the space. So the first thing that you have to do is you got to be honest about what's really going on. And you got to be honest if there's something in the space of where you've been out of integrity. All right, number two, you have to look deep into what responsibility, what ownership can I take as to where we're at and why we're there. This is a hard one for most people to do because we grew up in a world of naming, blaming, shaming, judging, and projecting. We grew up in a world where it's so much easier to judge somebody else, to see somebody else's flaws, than to take personal responsibility. So let me give you a great example of this without going deep into it because I've shared this in other podcasts. But when I was younger and in my first marriage, and today I'm happily married for over 10 years, but in my first marriage, my partner had had an affair. And I had to look at, well, how did I contribute to this? How could I take responsibility for this? How could I take ownership for some of what she did? Now, I'm not implying that she didn't need to look at what belongs to her, what ownership, what responsibility does she want to take, but you can't force your partner to take ownership or responsibility. It's up to yourself. So I had to look at, okay, well, yeah, I was leaking my energy. I was flirtatious. I flirted with her friends. I flirted with the waitress. I didn't help her feel fully heard or seen or acknowledged. We didn't necessarily make love enough. I didn't help her feel sexy. I didn't build her up. Yes, I provided. Yes, we had good humor and we had good times together, but I had to be willing to look at, really look at, how could I take ownership and responsibility for the outcome of where we're at? And this takes a lot of humility. This takes a lot of courage in order to do that. And just to be clear, this is not about blame. This is not about who's right and who's wrong. See, ownership and responsibility is about power. When you can take ownership and responsibility for how you contributed to exactly where your marriage is at, there's power in that. Not to mention, you're putting an end to an old pattern that you're perpetuating because you brought these patterns into the relationship, right? You had patterns, your partner had patterns before you ever got together, and those patterns are going to play out. So taking responsibility and taking ownership for what belongs to you is very vital to having a healthy marriage. Now, some of you are thinking, yeah, but David, if she's the one that had the affair, if she's the one that cheated, why do I have to take ownership for that? Why do I have to take responsibility for that? And I want to be crystal clear, and I will go into this in a future podcast. I'm not condoning that behavior. I'm not supporting that behavior, but I will invite you to recognize that yes, and also we have to have healthy boundaries. We have to have a healthy level of self-respect. I'm not suggesting that you should just let people poop all over you and treat you like crap. That's not the message that I'm portraying. But it will take a level of maturation. It will take a level of maturity. It will take you rising to a higher vibration where you can handle this more from your heart and less from your head. And so it's important that you allow yourself to take responsibility and ownership for what belongs to you rather than pointing fingers and think that you're just the victim. Being the victim in this is not going to help you. I'm not suggesting that you deserved what happened, but staying a victim will never lead to growth, will never lead to healing. Responsibility and ownership, there's power in that because then you're responsible for your life. All right. Well, what's number three is kind of goes hand in hand with this is you got to be willing to be vulnerable. You got to be willing to be hurt. You got to be willing to get out of your head and get into your heart. You got to be willing to be raw and open and just show the realness of who you are. It's a scary thing to do that because it's hard to talk, with your partner when there's tension in the space. So what can you do when your marriage is in trouble? You got to be vulnerable. You got to speak from your heart. You got to be emotionally available and let the rawness of what's really going on come through you. All right, what's the fourth thing that you could do? And I taught a whole seminar on this. It's one of the courses that we, I think, have for purchase online. It's called Communicate with Courage. What does that mean? It means that you're not placating, you're not pleasing, you're not yesing, you're not abdicating your leadership, you're not bending yourself. You got to give up wanting to be liked. You got to cut the cord of codependency from mommy worrying about that she's going to be upset or she's going to be mad at you or she's going to withdraw her love from you. And this takes a lot of work, by the way. I'm not suggesting that you could just snap your fingers and do this, but you got to be willing to be authentic. You got to be willing to speak the truth. You got to have courage in your communication, which means say the things that need to be said. I'm not saying say the things where you're blaming, you're naming, you're blaming, you're shaming, you're judging, you're projecting. No, you have to have the courage that if your marriage is in trouble, if your marriage is in jeopardy, like, hey, sit your wife down. Put down the golf clubs, put down the TV, put down Facebook, put down the weed, put down the alcohol, put down everything. Take a day off from work. Like, really get in there and communicate with courage. All right. Number five is you got to have a vision. What does that mean? It means, well, number one, look at your vows, reconnect to your vows. I mean, did you just say them from your mind because they sounded cool, or did you really mean them? It's like a sacred covenant, sacred vows that you took in front of God, in front of friends, in front of family. Like, really reconnect to the vows, the vibration behind your vows, the frequency behind your vows. Like, get back to the vision of why you guys got married to begin with, for better or worse, right? and have a vision for your relationship. Like a captain without coordinates ends up on an island called, how did I get here? How did I get separated? How did I get divorced? How did I get bankrupt? How did I get these health challenges? You have to have a vision for your life. Just like a captain has to know where he's headed, you got to know where you're headed within this relationship. And more often than not, when a marriage is struggling, you lost sight of the vision. Well, why did we get together? Right? To practice love, to practice the art of healing, to grow closer to God, like have a vision, reconnect to the vision. All right, what's number 6? You gotta have empathy and compassion. What does that mean? It means you grow as a man, your capacity to be able to feel. You grow your capacity to show understanding. See, when you're stuck in your head and you're using logic and thought and reason and analysis, your partner can't feel you. Empathy and compassion is what allows another human being to be heard, to be felt, to be seen. And when that happens, you can have honest and raw and real communication. That's where the vulnerability can come in. And this isn't just something where you just wake up one day and all of a sudden you're empathetic and you're compassionate. Take a look at what's going on around the world and the news. And we constantly hear about people killing other people. There's a lack of empathy. There's a lack of compassion for basic life. There's a lack of compassion for human beings. We could just turn a blind eye, turn our head and pretend the problems aren't there. Like empathy and compassion is what will heal relationships and what will heal marriages. It's like really seeing into their soul and having empathy and having compassion and coming from that space. It's a higher frequency. It's a higher vibration for you to be able to handle what's in front of you. But if you're in your head, you're operating from a place of story, you're operating from a place of judgment, you're operating from a place of projections, and it's going to be hard to bring life and love back into the marriage. All right, what's number 7? Is talk to others who were in a similar place, who figured it out. Like I always say this because I came from the world of healing and transformation. I was a chiropractor in New York City for close to 30 years. And, if somebody, for example, God forbid, has cancer and the doctor's like, well, you only have 6 months to live. I mean, that person, I would suggest go talk to people that were told you only have 6 months to live, that are here 10 years later, that are here 20 years later, that are here 30, 40 years later. What did they do? What did they do that was different? What did they find out? What did they read? Who did they speak to? What did they do in their life? How did they change? Did they wake up every day and drink celery juice like I do and lemon water and do Tai Chi and go for a run and go for a bike ride and work? Like, what did they do? Did they heal their relationship to their mother and to their father? What did they do? So talk to others who are in a similar place. I don't mean people that are going to give you advice that's filtered through their hurts and wounds and traumas, that want to get you to think the way they think so they don't have to change. I mean, talk to others who are in a similar place, who already figured it out, who already got the outcome that you're after. All right. Number 8. Very important. They're all important, right? Number 8 is you have to be willing to work on yourself. What do I mean by that? Well, you know, in working with over 10,000 men over the past 10 plus years, and a lot of them initially come into Man on Fire where they're struggling in their relationship, like they're very successful in their career, they've achieved, conquered, they have success, plaques, awards, trophies, the money, the houses, the wife, the kids, but the one area that they struggle the most is in relationship. And the common saying that we hear in our community is, I want to get her back, I want to get her back, I want to get her back. And we always say the same thing to this man. Well, you can't have anybody back. You can't get her back until you get yourself back. And by the way, there's never a promise that you can get anybody back. And Man on Fire would never make that promise, our organization. What we can promise you is that we can help you start to get yourself back. Well, how do I do that, David? Well, you got to be willing to work on yourself. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, I mean that a lot of us as men, we've worked on the outside of ourselves, right? We've gone to the gym, we've made the money, we know how to kick ass at work, but we haven't done the internal work. We haven't done the healing work, the transformational work. We haven't looked at our deepest, darkest secrets and patterns and all the shadow that got buried from childhood. We haven't done the mommy and the daddy work and cut the cord and done all of the work where we start to do the healing from the inside out. Because everything that's showing up in our life today is just a sum total of the patterns that got pushed down. So you got to be willing to work on yourself. So we help men, they start to get themselves back. Next thing you know, 10, 11 months later, one of our brothers ran into the woman that had cut off all ties and boom, they get engaged again. How did that happen? He started working on himself. Women are very intuitive creatures. They can sense when a man is growing. They can sense when he's changing. They feel everything. So you work on yourself. You have the humility. You stay humble. You have the courage. You have the conviction. You have the commitment. You have the tenacity. You have the fierceness. to work on yourself. Why? Because when one person is changing, the relationship changes, right? So even if you're not talking to this person, let's say you still live together, yes, if you change, your relationship changes. It's basic science. A plus B equals the sum total of the relationship called C. If person A, which is you, is changing, working on yourself, then A and B no longer equal C. So a lot of you are thinking, oh, but doesn't my partner have to work on herself? The answer is no. Would it be nice? Yes. Does she have to? No. Or does he have to? No. One of you has to work on yourself. And if one of you is at least working on yourself, then A plus B no longer equals C. More often than not, the men that we coach in our brotherhood, they start growing, they start transforming. And next thing you know, the relationship is so much healthier because that person changed. And when a man changes and when a man grows, it creates a sacred invitation for the woman to drop her walls, to drop her armor, to come more into her heart. Such a beautiful thing you get to witness as a man as you start to grow yourself and work on yourself. So that leads us to number 9, which is get support. Right? One of our key sayings in our brotherhood is get challenged, get supported, and be held accountable. Support, challenge, and accountability. Most men try to do it by themselves. They're a lone wolf and they drown doing that. I mean, you may eventually get there, but you're gonna probably throw away our most precious commodity, which is called time. So get support. Get support to be challenged and think outside of the box, like be stretched beyond how you've been currently seeing things. Be pushed and challenged to stretch into a higher version of yourself, a greater level of your true potential. So by getting support, by getting challenged, by being held accountable, and whether that's in a group of men, which I wholeheartedly endorse and recommend because men will challenge you, men rise with challenge. But even if it's not, going into a men's group, a men's organization, get support, get a therapist, get group therapy, whatever it takes, but get support. Don't try to figure this out on your own. It's not your area of expertise. It's not your area of mastery. Just like you want to improve your golf game, you hire a pro. You want to get better at baseball, you hire a pro. You want to get better at singing lessons, you hire a pro, you hire an expert. So get support by people that know what they're doing. And for those of you that are interested in Man on Fire, absolutely click on one of our links, go on our website, sign up to speak to one of our coaches. We'd be more than happy to offer you some support and see if our organization is the right fit for you at this point in time. All right, what's the last thing? Number 10, what is the last thing that you must be able to do in order to bring your marriage back to life, or in the event that your marriage is in jeopardy, is you got to be willing to play the long game. This is a big one for men because most of us want a quick fix. Most of us want the Whopper, the Big Mac. Men masturbate, they go to strip clubs. I just want the quick fix. I just want out of pain. I want into pleasure. I just want to take the edge off. I'll drink the alcohol, I'll smoke the weed. I'll do whatever I have to do to just get out of pain. I want to feel alive. I don't want to feel dead. I want out of pain. I want into pleasure. And so we're all playing the short game. And there's a long-term consequence to playing the short game. So we as men must train ourselves. No, 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 no. Play the long game. And even one of the greats out there, he says that most of us will overestimate what we could do in 1 year, but grossly underestimate what we could do in 10. So you got to be willing to play the long game. If you got married, it's a long commitment. Don't give up when times are tough. Don't tuck your tail and put your head down and just, oh, woe is me, and fall into some victimhood. Like, no, remember who you are. Remember, you were built for this. You were made for this. You can bring your marriage back to life, but you got to be willing to play the long game, which means you don't buy into the words of I don't love you anymore, or I love you, but I'm not in love with you, or I'm not attracted to you anymore. You see beyond that. Like, no, she's in pain. She can't find herself right now. She's spinning. She doesn't feel connected to herself. So, of course, she doesn't feel connected to me. Oh, but David, that's hard to do when she's pointing her finger, when she's blaming me. You got to see beyond that. You got to just recognize she's in pain. You got to be willing to play the long game. So I gave you 10 things for you guys to consider of what you could do in the event that your marriage is in trouble or in jeopardy. So what I'd love is for you to put into the comments, what is one giant takeaway that you're getting from this podcast today? What's the one thing that really struck a chord with you that resonates as a high truth for you? And as always, if you know anyone that you feel could benefit from any and all of our podcasts, please share this with other people. Guys, here's to you rising with passion, with power, and a deep sense of purpose. And yes, living deeply in love in your marriage. You got this. I believe in you. And I'll see you inside the next podcast. If you like what you're seeing and hearing, then hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you'll know the next episode has dropped.